Okay, great. All right. Hi, I'm Hannah Wacholder Katsman. I think I know 95% of you, and it's really nice to see you all here. Um, um, Let me just introduce some of the people on the call um, who are part of our committee it's a huge amount of work, this campaign, and quite a number of people who have taken uh, playing large roles. So this is Yona David, who's from college, and he's one of the two people who helps. I mean, actually, more people. We've had interaction with many people from Classmate. Classmate is the platform that's been donating their services to us and helps us with all the technical issues. And gives us strategic advice about how to best conduct the campaign. And we have Lori, who is an experienced fundraiser, my neighbor, and who's been helping me all along, making sure that things are running smoothly, legal and accounting ends, and fundraising ends in terms of who's responsible for this project and who's going to make sure that it comes to fruition. Also, Kate is from Cosmatch. And Elise used to work in Holit. She's been helping us a lot, and she's going to speak today. And I want to introduce Karen, who did the beautiful graphics well, I knew many years ago in Petach Tikva and helped her with her babies, and did the beautiful graphics for the flyer for this event and the one in Hebrew. We have an event in Hebrew at 8:30 Israel time. If you know anybody who might like to come. And we can, and you could come to that one also because we have new different speakers. Now we added Anat, who's I didn't put on the flyer, but we realized we need her to come and speak about the project. So she's not here yet, but we will. So she is the person from Rahat. She's in charge of sustainability in the city of Rahat and at the community center. And this is her project, really. So I met her after Hayim was killed. She came to the house with one of the women who worked in the community garden, a teacher in the school that's attached to one of the community gardens. So I saw her again last week already when I went to Rahat. And so she'll be there, and many of you are ambassadors, and you have a really, really important role. And even if you're not an ambassador, if you're helping spread the word, that's really how a fundraising campaign is successful, a crowdfunding campaign. And at the end, if anyone wants to stay on, we answer some more specific questions for ambassadors. Okay. Let me just check if I heard from not yet. Okay, noise or anything else I need to add before we go on? I'll tell you a little bit about how the campaign is going. We set as a goal $400,000, which is very ambitious. We don't know that we're going to make it, but we wanted to have a high goal and not make it, then have a lower goal and perhaps not be able to give as much to the center. The center is about 2/3 funded, or when there's one major donation from a foundation that's we're expecting, and plus the Association of Community Centers in Israel, the Chavrat HaMatnasim, and Mifal HaPais have given about 1/3 of the funding. So it's not solely on us, but we would like to give as much as we can. And so I'm really looking forward to this evening and to hearing some new stories about Chaim and hearing, I specifically looked for, we've had a lot of memorial events, especially in the first year, and most of them were academic. And sometimes the same people spoke, at a few of the events. So I really wanted to get some new people who we haven't heard from yet, who also had a relationship with Chaim, and hear what they had to say. So, okay, so Seth, can I have you go on first? Are you here? So
Yeah.
I didn't meet Seth. Let me introduce you briefly. Um, I haven't met Seth personally. I know from Francis, who some of you may have seen in the event we had in University of Washington around October 7th. He's he was Chaim's classmate at in the Jackson School, and I asked him, but he wasn't available, so he recommended Seth, who lives in Thailand. So please introduce yourself, Seth, and tell us about Chaim.
Okay. I hope I cover what you want me to here. And yeah, it's wonderful to meet to all of you. So yes, I was a PhD classmate of Hayim's at University of Washington. Um, he was a dear friend. Um, and I live in Thailand. I work on humanitarian assistance to Myanmar, conflict affected areas of Myanmar. So I'd like to say a few words about Haim's years working and studying in the US, and then talk briefly about how his values inspired myself and those who met him and fit with the vision and objectives of the center. As I'm sure you all know, Haim was really an active and treasured member of the academic and social community at UW and in Seattle. Academically, he was extremely curious and fearless, which he combined with admirable discipline to be. He was really an emerging and respected scholar. Um, and he was also extremely supportive of his peers uh, in their academic careers, but also everything else, offering countless ideas, but also endless hours of patient listening and psychological guidance. Um, and so he made all our experience there much, much richer and much more meaningful. Um, he stood out most, along with his hair, seesaw laugh, bitter coffee, um, for his deep and clear sense of purpose, um, and commitment to justice, fairness, and inclusion, but also finding creative and practical, real-world solutions to the things he cared about. This was true academically, uh, including the problems he discussed so eloquently and forcefully regarding the Middle East and his home. Hayim was truly driven by his values. It seemed almost intrinsic to his being. Um, that seemed to be what drove him all the time. It drove him to take risks and to be a teacher and leader in ways that most others are afraid or don't know how to do. Um, he was also committed to applying those principles in his personal life. Um, and, you know, as someone who would talk to him frequently, always quickly pushing those around him to address their own dilemmas, their own decisions in the most ethical way. So solving our problems through clarity of on the in terms of ethics, which was a great teaching for me. He was the best of teachers. He led by example, I think, without being self-righteous, and made myself and I think many others around him want to try to achieve positive things in the world at the local levels and how they operate, but also at global levels, and so forth. He was also extremely honest and open, and obviously had a fantastic sense of humor, always laughing almost in any situation. I loved to make him laugh. He was insatiably curious and humble, and he was also constantly sought out other people's candid inputs into his latest ideas and thinking, to test and tweak and discard and renew them, which made him interesting and inspiring, and also just a joy to be around. He was also naturally warm and inviting and loving. The immense outpouring of grief over his death in our community is testament to how many people he touched.
Can you give us like a story or a personal example of one of the uh, values or the way he inspired you? Like you said he, well, on a personal level. So like, what do you mean in his personal life or?
Yeah. Well, they're a little bit, maybe a little bit personal. Well, let me just finish my little thing, and
Sure.
then I'll reflect a little bit more personally. I think, yeah, I think
Okay.
that would be nice. Yeah, let me mull it over while I talk. So I was also just amazed at the range of his simultaneous achievement, activities, and initiatives. He seemed like he was kind of relaxed and not doing things all the time, but he was, he writing a dissertation while teaching a class, while leading a group of campus activists, while having the time to run up a mountain, play music at a gig, teach his friend how to drive, invite his classmates over for Sunday lunch, help them move, bake bread, at the same time assisting everyone. So I think that the center captures so much of kind of Hayim. It's an addition, a rich addition to his rich legacy. Um, and yeah, his love of nature and affection for people from all places. I mean, I guess one story is just we had a new student from Indonesia who was living in the neighborhood, and I was going over to Hayum's place just for lunch, and he was there, and he said, I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm helping this guy move, you know. And I said, oh, and he was just constantly doing things for other people. And the next day he was teaching someone how to drive, and then the next day he was offering to help me with something. And so I think it was just that constant, just he would just throw himself into helping others all the time in ways that were just unnecessary or unexpected. Yeah, I think in personal life too, right? I mean, without going into details, just you talk with a friend, you're going through struggles with your relationships, and he's just always clear. Don't do that. That's the wrong thing to do. Do this. Almost sort of, not about you. It's about the people you're engaging with. He did offer to burn down the Jackson school on my behalf because I was upset, and then I called him. Why didn't you burn it down? He said, I was joking. So so I almost leaned on him that much. I thought he would really burn down the Jackson school because I was upset. So uh, and yeah, lots of other very funny stories too. But anyway, I'll leave it at that, and I'll maybe come in later with some more personal reflections if
Okay,
there's
thanks very, very much, Seth. I think that's one of the things that really struck me also, like that he was very focused and did so many different things and took on so many different tasks in different areas, but he always seemed relaxed. He always seemed like he had time for you, and he could just, he just, did what he focused on what he was doing, and then he would let it go and go on to the next thing.
never said he didn't have time to talk. He would always fit you in, and yeah, that was a priority for him. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Seth. We're going to now go to Dr. Rachel Feldman, who's a professor of religion at Dartmouth, who just got tenure. So mazel tov to Rachel.
Thank you.
And they want you to come to Israel already. I think my someone from my shul is here, and he already asked me when you can come to Israel and speak in a shul. So
Be in touch.
that in your bio. So let us know when you're in our neighborhood.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. So I'll just say I typed up something, but before I read that, I just want to say that I got to know Chaim through our Jewish Studies academic network, and more specifically, I would say a network of scholars committed to using ethnography to examine religious nationalism in Israel. And so we collaborated intellectually in the 2 years before he was killed. I had met him in person a few times at conferences and had really nice interactions with him. And then our intellectual collaboration really played out during COVID. So the time that I spent thinking with him was largely remote. So it's, my great regret that I just didn't have more time to know him in person, simply as a friend. So, Hannah, when you asked me to speak about a value that I associate with Hayim, I immediately, a phrase came to my mind when I think about his body of scholarship and all of the conversations that we had as a whole. And that phrase is social critique as world repair. So I want to speak a little bit more about what I mean by that. I think that Hayim's scholarship embodies a very particular mode of politically incisive and politically unapologetic, yet always compassionate social critique aimed at repairing unjust relations. Hayim's work teaches us that we need to intellectually dissect and deconstruct nationalism in order to build a more sustainable future. And I really, as I've over the past year have been teaching his works, his last set of published works, I really believe that his work stands as some of the most prescient and rigorous work that we can read today to understand Jewish nationalism and the Israeli state. With regards to all of his scholarly contributions, I think that Hayim had two driving motivations. One, I think that he really wanted to understand the interactions of religion and nationalism and how they co-create one another. And two, I think he really wanted to make sense of how Israel's religious right wing rose to political power. In his work, Hayim actually provides us with a really innovative new way of thinking about religious Zionism and studying religious Zionism. He argues that it should not be treated as some kind of stable ideological system, but he calls for a new generation of scholars to approach religious Zionism as a complex network of social connections, kinship, geographic and institutional dynamics. So Hayim really just did extraordinary work thinking about the complexity and diversification of religious Zionism that I think his hope would help us understand how this sort of relatively small demographic came to exert such an enormous influence on Israeli politics. I want to speak more specifically about one of the very last things that Hayim published, which is a chapter in our edited volume. I have it here. It's a project that Hayim collaborated with us on, a series of case studies, ethnographic case studies of settlements in Israel. And Hayim just played such a critical role in conceptualizing this project. From the very first email, I remember that I reached out to him. He immediately understood the importance of this project and jumped on board. I actually received my first printed copy of the book on October 8th. The day after Hayim was killed. And I can say that students all over the world are reading this book and they are reading his chapter. So if it's okay, I want to say a few more words about his chapter. So in his chapter in this book, Hayim presents ethnographic research that was part of his dissertation that he conducted in the Chalutza settlements. So these are new settlements established inside what's referred to as the Gaza envelope, which is the region that Hamas attacked on the 7th and where Hayim was killed. Hayim's research in this book highlights the fact that we cannot simply look at religiously motivated settlement expansion in the West Bank and cordon it off neatly and label it as the problem while pointing to the moral superiority of what happens inside Israel proper. In his chapter, Hayim reminds us that a growing ethos of exclusive Jewish domination is not confined to the West Bank. And he shows us specifically how settler ideologies that came of age in the West Bank post-67 have been imported back into Israel proper through the building of new communities like those in Chalutza. In his conclusion, in his chapter, Hayim writes, and I quote, "These new forms of religious Zionist settlement offer more evidence of the mental erasure of the Green Line and the growing acceptance of a one-state reality between the river and the sea." Chillingly, Hayim's chapter also seems to prophetically predict the October 7th attack. In one vignette, Hayim describes how in 2019, a woman in the settlement received a note tied to a balloon sent over from Gaza, threatening that if the IDF did not cease murdering protesters on the border, they would use the balloons to, quote, kill the settlers and burn their houses down. Hayim included this example in his chapter, I think, because he was deeply attuned to the impending disaster of failing to seriously address Palestinian statehood while pursuing a one-state reality built on continuous military occupation. And in the last line of the very last essay that Hayim wrote and published before he was killed, he states very simply and profoundly, quote, "As history has shown us more than once, ignoring the Palestinian struggle is not a sustainable strategy." And I note the use of the word sustainable here for our purposes today. So I'll start to wrap up that, and just I want to emphasize that even though Hayim disagreed with many of the ideologies of his interlocutors on the religious right, he never demonized individuals in his writing. He always sought to understand his individuals that he spoke to inside a much bigger matrix of inequality and reciprocal violence. And Hayim was not an armchair academic. He was passionate about theorizing a future Israel-Palestine that could evolve beyond exclusive forms of nationalism, but he was actively trying to create this world on the ground, a world in which, again, I quote Hayim, quote, "Israelis and Palestinians are both able to live full lives as equals under the law." So Hayim really embodied the engaged scholar activist and who deconstructed nationalism with the aim of building something better. He exhibited bravery in his intellectual production, bravery in his willingness to engage in direct actions on the ground that reject a Jewish versus Arab binary. And I think that the building of this sustainability center is really a step towards realizing Hayim's vision of collective liberation, a vision that Hayim believed could only come about through the painful work of critically examining one's own society, but a form of critique that is aimed at repair and therefore a profound expression of love. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really beautiful, Rachel. Thanks for writing that up and sharing with us and giving us maybe not everyone here is familiar with his research. So, and your perspective on it really adds a lot. And of course, one of the things about Hayim is that it's so relevant. And we, of course, all wonder, what he would be saying now, but we can't know. Yeah. Okay.
Words are guiding us and they're being read all over the world.
Thank you. Thank you. So we put a link to Rachel's an ambassador, as are many of the people on this call. So if you'd like to donate, we are kicking off our campaign. We want to get to, like I said, $400,000. We're about 12% there, more or less. And so please share with your friends and put in groups and ask people, let people know who are interested in this kind of in this project, which we really feel will benefit all of Israel. Okay, next is Elise. I don't see her not yet. So you're up, Elise.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Can you move a little closer to the microphone? It's hard to hear you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak today about Hayim. I've been the last few weeks with Hannah and Noi and looking at all the work that they're doing, and it's really unbelievable, and it does remind me of Hayim, of doing so many things in 24 hours. So I met Hayim on my very first day at Kibbutz Holit, under the tree, near the dining room. I sat down to eat on a bench, and Hayim sat across from me, sharing his dreams for kibbutz, the kibbutz Noi, that's the kibbutz landscape, and what needs to be done to make it happen. That was Hayim, a man of vision, but not less a man of action. I called him Hayim, even though everybody correct me in Holit, Katsman. He never corrected me. A man or a person is made out of a lot of parts, and each one of us has the opportunity to know just a small part of that person. That part is made of short conversations, daily interactions, and sharing ideas. So each one of us has his own Hayim. So I'll tell you about the Hayim that I knew. In 2022, I was chosen to be the business manager of Kibbutz Holit. And shortly after that, Hayim was chosen for the chair of the committee of Holit. Not only that, he was also in charge of the Noi in Holit. And that's
The landscaping.
the landscaping, and he was the main gardener. Looking back, I understand that mainly what connected me and Hayim was values that were quite the same and our way that we looked at life. And the second thing was just wanting to make Holit a better place to be in. One of the first things I noticed when I started my role in Kibbutz Holit, that were two women were chosen to be the managers of the kibbutz, me and the chairman of the kibbutz, Renana Gome. And it seemed to me very strange why no women are in any positions in Holit. And slowly I understood that women prefer not to be in the main discussion of the kibbutz because the conversation wasn't always very easy and very nice for them. So one of the things that we decided to do was to build out the ethic codes of Holit to change how people speak to each other and what are the values that we want to see in Kibbutz Holit. It looked very strange for the beginning for most of the people who lived there, but Hayim just said that's for him, and we started together to work on the ethic code of Holit. At March 2023, the ethic code of Holit was approved. The values that we talked about or we had in the ethic code were values such as equality, integrity, accountability, transparency. And I would like to talk about one value that I saw in Hayim working with him. I think loyalty was a value that I would like to talk about. Some people are loyal to people. Hayim was loyal to his values and to what he believed in. Sometimes it was very difficult to understand for other people to understand why one day he is okay with something that happened with one person and then in the other person it's not okay, because for him what was important is the values and what he thought was good for Holit. In his point of view or his word, Holit should be a better place, and these are the values that he wanted to bring with him. He always worked to find the good things in people and to bring out whatever was good for all the people in Holit, or at least of most of them. He was always willing to help, no matter what happened 5 minutes earlier. He was always helping elderly people, whoever needed a hand, whoever needed anything, could always contact Hayim, and he was there to help. I felt safe next to Hayim. Something within his existence was full of security, and it was safe, and you feel comfortable, confidence to work with him. One of the it happened, both of us were vegan, and in the Kibbutz Holit, there was the cows that we had to continue building the cows. And we had a conversation about it. How can it be that both of us are vegetarians and we're proving to build Holit's refet, the cow's shade? And we decided at the end of the conversation that our role is to take care of Holit and the independence and the well-being of the people in Holit. So we need to give up our own values on this decision, because this is what's right for Holit. Hayim, whatever Hayim did, he did it with seriously. Everything he did, he learned from scratch, and everything he did was done with very, very careful, with thinking about people, making sure nobody is offended, but everything had to be perfect. As the business manager of Kibbutz Holit, the budget was very low. We didn't have a lot of money to do projects or anything. So I had to put the money where I knew I can get the best out of. And that would happen where Hayim was. So most of the projects that I did with Holit, I did with Hayim. If it was planting 1,200 trees in Kibbutz Holit, Sufa and Kerem Shalom, just to take it into proportion, it's a 1 million shekel project with JNF Australia and 3 kibbutzim and Kakal. I can't think of anybody else to do this but Hayim, from the very small things to everything. It always amazing me how he can do so many things in 24 hours. And I call it Hayim's time, because he had his own time. And it's amazing whatever he done. And I'm always thinking about it. I even didn't know all the things that he's doing. One more thing. After Hayim was killed in November 2023, sitting down in Engedi with me, Oren, and 2 other members of Kibbutz Holit, we decided to build a committee that would take care of everything to do with Kayamut in Kibbutz Holit, sustainability in Kibbutz Holit, and that was the main value of going back and rebuilding Holit is Kayamut, sustainability. And I think that is, for me, is connected to Hayim and with everything that he done in Holit, or the things that I knew. And one thing I also thought about it, that there was a reason, Hannah, for you calling Hayim, because I do think that he brought Hayim to everywhere he came, and everywhere he was full of Hayim, and his name was so much, he said so much about him. And last thing, on the meeting room in Holit, we had a sign saying, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." It's a sentence by Mahatma Gandhi, and I think that's Hayim. He did walk and did whatever he believed in, and that was amazing. It was an honor to work with him, to know him, and now to meet Hannah and Noi.
Thank you very, very much, Elise. As we put the donor links in the chat. If anyone has any questions for us, you could put them in the chat and or write them privately. And Anat, there was a misunderstanding because between about what day this was. So she's not going to be able to be here, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about the project.
Maybe I can talk, Ema?
Oh, sure. Sorry, Noi, go ahead.
No, I can talk also.
Okay.
The
Sorry.
Why am I muted?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to unmute myself and I muted you by mistake. Okay.
Okay,
Let's start
good.
from the beginning.
Yes. Okay, first of all, thank you for everyone who's coming. I was very excited also to listen to everyone and to hear Seth, Rachel, and Lisa. I wanted to talk a little bit about the project and how it's connected maybe to the political and situation in Israel-Palestine these days. First of all, so Rahat was one of the places Hayim was volunteering. He volunteered in Academics for Equality, which is an organization that helps minorities in academy, like Palestinian citizens of Israel, Ethiopians, Mizrahim, and every minority group.
And women. And I just want to say in the Hebrew session at 8:30, there's going to be a professor who worked with him on the committee there of Academia for Equality, for those who want to come and hear some of the Hebrew. And we're also going to, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but at the Hebrews before, in case people have to leave early, there's also going to be at the end a musician who lived on Hayim with Hayim on Kibbutz Holit, who worked with him, and he's going to be playing some of the music. So even if you don't know Hebrew, you could benefit from that. Okay, sorry, continue, Noi.
Yeah, definitely. So he also volunteered in Misaferiata, which is group villages in the West Bank and South Mount Hebron. I actually had the opportunity to go and volunteer there as well, and a few months ago, and hear many stories of his friends there. And he also was a DJ of Arabic music, and I think we can share a playlist. We made a link of his playlist.
Right, we have a playlist we can put into the chat also.
Yeah, so anyway, what I'm trying to say is all of these projects that Hayim was involved in had one thing, I think, connected to them, like coexistence, co-resistance, I would say. Some people say coexistence, some of us say co-resistance. Like resisting to separating us, as Rachel said beautifully before. And I think especially this center, which is a sustainability center, and it's going to talk about one of the things that is going to be there is going to be educational material about Beduin sustainability values, which I think sometimes, I think it's one of the most important things, because if Israeli and Jew people or students come and listen about the other society, listen good things about the other society, which sadly also Palestinians and also Israelis hear many times about the bad things about the other. So I think this is a great opportunity for both sides to meet each other and to help each other. And I think it's a great thing, or a great vaccine against racism in our society. And especially in these days, I'm sure all of you follow the news and know what's happening. And I think it's very important to give hope. And this project, by the way, many politicians, Palestinian politicians, and also Israeli politicians, and also Jewish Israeli politicians, came to us and wanted to help us with this project, because more than the center itself, I want to say we in Israel, we're lacking so much of political imagination. and any hope for a different reality. And we want to make sure that my brother and that other people that are dying now are the last ones to die from this conflict. So I think it's very important that we have this project, and it gives us hope for a future that is different than what it is. And it's also important for the kibbutzim to come back, because if we continue, I mean, people need to come back when they feel safe. And if we will have a different vision and a safe place, really, so people can come back and really live their life, and Holit can become a great place again. So anyway, thank you for everyone. And yeah, so I just wanted to focus on how this project is important for now and exactly for these days. And I'm really thankful for all of you helping. And I think that if we're going to succeed in this project, it's going to be a great win for our vision of how Israel should look, and the life in Israel between Palestinians and Israelis and Arabs will look. Thank you. And Hannah, if you want to add things about the project, you're welcome. And also, if ambassadors have any questions later, so you can ask, I think, right?
Okay. First of all, again, if someone wants to speak and they have something they want to share, and really that you're just let me or Karen or Noi know, and we'll put you up. So I visited the space that's going to be the Sustainability Center, God willing. It's supposed to be starting in July. They're supposed to start building. It's 2 dunams. It's a large space. It is in between an elementary school, the Al Salam school, and a kindergarten. The photographer who came to photograph for Haaretz, we met. The impetus for the meeting was Judy Maltz, who's a writer for English Haaretz. She asked to do a piece, and she had to be in Ben Gurion one day, so we all met in Holit. And the photographer actually lives now in Holit. He's not a member. His name is Eliyahu Hershkovitz, and he actually took pictures of Chaim in when Netanel Shlomovitz, who's a reporter in Hebrew Haaretz for American Affairs, interviewed Chaim because he was researching and writing about the Israeli right and the influence of the United States right-wing conservative movement on Israelis. Conservative movement, that's Kohelet and Tikva Fund and so on. And so he told it, so when there was a book launch in June, beginning of July at Tel Aviv University, because Chaim wrote a chapter in a book that was called the Americanization of the Israeli right. It's in Hebrew. And like Rachel mentioned, this one piece that book was a chapter from Chaim came out right after his death. One copy, Chaim's author copy went all the way to Germany, to Noi, and before coming back to me, although Rachel had the publisher send me a copy directly, but the author copy did not get the message that he was not a Holit, and somehow it got to Germany. Anyway, but that book was, so there were also several other articles that he published, but this one, they had a panel, and Netanel Shlomovitz from Haaretz was on the panel, and afterward he said he was going to send me an archive of pictures that he took that I had not seen, that did not make it into that article, into that interview with him, which I don't think has ever been translated into English, unfortunately. I think it's in the file. And if Karen, if you could just go and just redo all the links that we published before. And I don't think you put the publications. We have a link that that was you. Was that you, Rachel? No, it was Leora. Leora put together very soon after his death a Google Drive with articles that Chaim published in English and Hebrew, and we're going to share it here. So I just want to tell an anecdote about Netanel, that he went to, I hope I have that name right, the first name. When he was in Holit, he said that Chaim didn't want to be interviewed. he would consult with Chaim about his articles. Before he would publish an article about the United States, he would consult with Chaim. And he really wanted to do an interview with him. And Chaim said, no, there's other people that you should interview before me. I'm not like, and he insisted, and we're really lucky that he did. So he went to Holit and was there for a few hours, and he said people kept coming in to talk to Chaim and ask him questions, because he was just the go-to person on the kibbutz that everyone needed. So they were constantly getting interrupted. So the photographer in Rahat, he pointed out, he said he comes to this school on election day because in Israel they close schools on election day, and that's where the polling places are. And typically, one school will have a number of polling stations for different neighborhoods. And he said that this school, the Al Salam school, has the most polling stations of any school in Israel. So he often comes because he lives nearby. Anyway, that's so the school has this space outside, and I noticed that they already have trees, they already have fruit trees there, and the fruit trees are very well taken care of. And they teach the children already know how to, that they can pick one or two and not to pick too much. And they have another area where they have different types of plants. So this is already a value in the school. And the school, the sustainability center will be connecting the school and the kindergarten. And when they don't have visitors from the outside and they expect to frequently have class trips from within Rahat, which has 22 elementary schools, by the way, and from the surrounding area. And therefore, then the children will be able to have access and use the sustainability center during the day. The another point I wanted to just mention that was important that came up during my meeting in Rahat, and that was so the head of the director of the community center in Rahat, which is running this project, is named Fouad Al-Zaidna, and the name might be familiar because two of his relatives from Rahat were working on Kibbutz Holit on October 7th, and they were kidnapped. And their bodies were retrieved by the IDF in January of this year. And and one of the city council members who also came said that he was the one who accompanied the families of these two hostages, because there were a small number of Palestinian hostages, of non-Jewish hostages in Israel from the Beduin or from the Palestinian community. And the other thing that someone there said, and I maybe Elise remembers who it was, how for many years the Rahat got a lot of support from the surrounding kibbutzim and moshavim in the area. And then on October 7th, when Rahat was spared, it was the other way around, and Rahat felt they were finally able to repay some of the kindness that they had received over the years from the surrounding areas. And so I found that very moving. So the last thing I'll say about the community center, the sustainability center, there are going to be 4 subjects. One is sustainable gardening and agriculture, cooking, which will be somewhat limited because of the facilities, reduction of consumption, and climate education. And then we went to see the garden that Chaim had helped build, and it's still going strong. And there's some pictures on my Facebook page, and in the Haaretz article, you could see that it's thriving, and people were really inspired by Chaim. And okay, so So I'll stop here. It's 10 to not, it's 10 of the hour already. Is there anyone have anything they'd like to add before we close? Want to say hi? No, my daughter does not want